Okay, welcome. So we are going to continue working our way through the process, talking about how to create a Quarto website and then publish that website. And we're going to publish it using GitHub pages. And GitHub is just a super useful website online platform to get used to using. So GitHub is an online platform for hosting Git repositories. So these shared repositories where we can use the version control. So hopefully you've already checked this, make sure you've got Git running on your computer. And so GitHub is an online server where it hosts this, and we'll be able to keep track of who's changing what in our files, when those changes occurred, we can check and undo those changes if you have certain permissions. And other people, if these are public repos, anybody else that has a GitHub account is open to check out your files and edit them and so on. So it's a nice, real open source platform for sharing files and seeing what other people may have created out there. So if you want to go ahead and check to see whether you have an account or set up account, you can go to GitHub. So I'm in GitHub here. I will sign out. And so when you go to the GitHub landing page, again, it's going to be github.com. Up in the top right corner, you can sign in. If you already have a GitHub account, go ahead and do that. If you do not have a GitHub account, then you're going to want to sign up for a GitHub account. So you'd click the sign up button and then enter in the basic information. And so for your username, I would recommend doing something like this, depending on your name. Where you just kind of use your initials or maybe your full name and then your last name, but something professional. If you're going to use this for professional reasons, let's not choose things like Jelly Bean Unicorn Warrior or something like that. Let's keep this respectful in GitHub. But I am going to go ahead and sign into my GitHub account. You should set one up or log into yours, and then I'll kind of unpause my recording. Okay, great. So now I am assuming you've signed in or signed up for GitHub. It is all free. And depending on where you are at your stage in GitHub, you'll have various things on your home screen. So you can check to see who might be following you, what repos are you working on, who's making changes to your work, and so on. So it's a good way just to keep track of who's checking out your work and if they are making changes or able to make changes, what they're doing. If you don't have any repos, that's just fine. There's a nice menu. If you click on the icon over here that you can choose to customize, I didn't. There are various options. These are popular things to check out. And here you can check out what repos exist. So here's the repo for our course. And you can see in here the various files. A lot of them my students should be familiar working with, and you can see the changes. So I just made some changes to the instruction document that we were looking at, and you can see those changes were logged 22 minutes ago, and you can see what I did to them, for example. And this is great for collaborating with other people who can simultaneously make changes to these files. So this is where the central repo is going to live. We're going to call this the main repo that we're going to set up in a second. So this is a remote repo that sits in GitHub server. So it's kind of in the cloud. And then we're going to sync local changes to our files on our computer to the cloud and back and forth. So the first thing I want to do is create a new repo. So we're going to create a website using Quarto. So go ahead with that in mind. I'm going to create a repo where we're going to save all of the files that go into creating our website. So to create a new GitHub repository, we call them repos. I'm going to click the plus sign up here, and then I'm going to create a new repository. And then for the repository, I recommend the following. If you are going to be setting up a website for yourself, then and this is going to be, well, of course, this is a website for yourself, but if you're setting this up as like a home page, like your main home page, then I would recommend using a repository name like this. And here you would replace username with whatever your username is, of course. And then you're going to want to keep this repository name in mind. You want to know what you call this repository before we go into Corto. If you're going to be working with Posit Cloud, yeah, all the same conventions are going to work. I am going to just set up a demo website to play around with how to do this. If you're following along in these videos, you might just want to set up a demo site just where you can play around with creating websites, and then you can create your homepage later if you want to do it that way. So I'm going to create a repo, which I called demo site, and this is where I'm going to store all of the files, and this is going to also appear in the website address that I create. Here you can type a description if you want to. This is optional, so I'm just going to leave that blank. Here you definitely want to make this a public repo. So you want people, the public, to be able to see your website. If you make it private, then only certain people are going to be able to view the website. There are certainly situations where you're working on research that you might not want out to the public just yet, but you're collaborating with other people where you might set that to private. So depending on the situation, sometimes you might choose public and sometimes you might choose private. In this case, we're going to set up a web page that we want available to the public. So that's why I chose the public option. I am not going to add a README file. Well, we'll add it later, but this is where you can add information about what the purpose of the repository is, and you can also kind of do what is going on in each of the files in the repository and so on. We're not going to add a git ignore because that's going to get added for us in Corto. So we'll skip that step for now. And you can choose a license if you want to copyright it or not copyright it, keep it open. You could choose that. I am not going to choose a license, so I will just keep that as none. So really all I did here was I clicked on create a new repo, and then I called my repo demo site and made it public and didn't choose anything for these other options. And now I'm going to create my repo. It is creating. And now I just have a blank repo, which is named demo site. And you can see the address of the repo up top. So it's just the default is github.com forward slash your username / the repository name. And here are some nice, helpful instructions that will eventually use these later on down the line. But in this video, I wanted to just focus on what is GitHub, make sure everybody has an account in GitHub, and make sure that you're able to create a repository where we're going to share files relating to the website. So at this point, you've got Git installed on your local computer if you're doing things in RStudio. If you're doing things in Posit Cloud, you actually don't need Git installed on your local computer. Then you've got a GitHub account, and you've created this repo in your GitHub account where you're going to host your website. So if you've done all of that, you are up to speed and you're ready for the next video.